Elections give the citizens the chance to make their political decisions. Constant demand for quality leadership from those they voted into office.
Look at us now, there is nothing, we are starving. Tinubu should please do something.
It's also important to having a Nigeria of everyone's dream. Join Tᴏɪᴛᴛ Akínyòdé as it takes to task seasoned analysts, opinion makers, business professionals, and politicians on issues around politics, policies, governance, and leadership. Every Monday to Friday from 4 to 5:30 p.m. on your super dial, Mainland 98.3 FM will welcome you roommates as we discuss the situations.
Good evening and welcome to the Wednesday edition of the Situation Room on Mainland 98.3 FM, the sound of Lagos. Situation Room is basically a weekly program, Mondays through to Fridays, 90 minutes, where we dive deep into pressing issues that shape our nation and informs how we operate as citizens of our great country, Nigeria. Just like every other day, today is not going to be any different. We try to analyze important issues. We try to bring to the fore issues that affect us as in the African countries and beyond. And so today on the Situation Room, we intend to have a conversation about that kind of relationship that we share with other countries. We're focusing on diplomatic relations with a tight focus on Nigeria. We would, of course, reference other countries, but all of our references will be linked to our current situation with regards to bilateral, even multilateral relationships with African countries and other countries. I do have a guest that would be joining me, but before I go on ahead to introduce my guest and lay the proper foundation for today's conversation on the Situation Room, don't forget that you can join the live stream on Facebook and on YouTube at Mainland 98.3 FM. We're currently live. You can join the program if you don't have access to your radio at this time. You are listening to the Situation Room. My name is Sage Babalola. This is Mainland 98.3 FM, and just like I earlier introduced to you, today in the Situation Room, we'll be focusing on diplomatic relationships, and we're focusing on Nigeria's relationship with other countries. Now, in the 17 months of office of this current administration, President Bola Tinubu and the Vice President Kashim Shettima have undertaken 41 trips across 26 countries, collectively spending 180 days or 6 months on foreign engagement. Now, this is according to Punch. Analysis even show further that President Tinubu, with the longer mileage, has logged about 124 days abroad. He has visited 16 countries and been on 29 trips. He has also accumulated over 127 flight hours, if you're calculating and if you want precision. But the president's recent trip to France and South Africa have Nigerians asking quite a lot of questions. Nigerians are seeking to understand the importance of these trips and how it correlates with the long-term economic benefits for the ordinary person. And as one of Africa's most influential nations, Nigeria plays a pivotal role in the intricacies of international diplomacy. So we're going to explore that intricate web of Nigeria's diplomatic ties, both within Africa and across the globe. We're going to hear from an expert today who would help us uncover the impact of these relations on our economy, on our security, and even our cultural exchange. This evening, joining me on the Situation Room to discuss our diplomatic relation, Nigeria in Focus, is Segun Bolariwa. He's an associate professor and director of research, Nigeria Institute of International Affairs, NIIA, here in Lagos, Nigeria. Good evening, sir. Thank you very much for your time, and I appreciate you for your patience.
Good evening. Thank you.
Yes, it's such a pleasure to have you. So, before we kickstart conversation and start talking about the specific countries that we have diplomatic relationships with, let's first educate the people on what these diplomatic relationships even are. What does it mean when a country has diplomatic ties with another nation?
Diplomatic ties is something that is a tool of relationship. It's a tool of relationship between two or more countries, and that's what we call diplomacy. And diplomacy is a way by which you relate, or a way by which two or more countries relate within the international environment. So diplomacy and diplomatic engagement are necessary things a country needs in order to relate with other countries. So diplomacy can happen at the bilateral level, that's between two countries, Nigeria and France, Nigeria and US. Then at the multilateral level, that is Nigeria's membership of international organizations. And thereby, because Nigeria is a member of ECOWAS, Nigeria relates with all the members of the ECOWAS. Nigeria relates with all members of African Union. And Nigeria is a member of United Nations, and therefore relates with all 93 members, including itself, of the United Nations. And that's multilateral relationship or relations. So the diplomacy happens both at the bilateral and multilateral levels. And every country needs it because it's the only way or mode by which countries relate between themselves, among themselves, and within the international system.
All right. Well, let's just jump right into the conversation for today. I mean, everybody can figure out why we're even having this conversation, because the president's recent trip to France and now South Africa, like I said in my introduction, Nigerians have a lot to question. We've seen comments from people, even on social media. You have domestic issues to deal with. Why are you globetrotting and jumping from one country to the other? And so I would like to put perspective into that. At least the MOU that the president has signed with France, for example, is something about utilizing our mineral resources, involving ourselves in the plan for cleaner energy and what have you. And also with South Africa, for example, that meeting has yielded a result that allows for easy visa access for business travelers, tourists, and what have you. So it's easier now for tourists from Nigeria to access South Africa, and a 5-year entry visa as well. And this is me highlighting some of the benefit that has come out of the recent trip of the president. But Nigerians are not convinced. They believe that none of the trips of the president has yielded any positive result. An example, a country like France, most of their colonies has disassociated themselves from France. So why is Nigeria now relating with a country that does not even have control over its own former colonies? Can you please put perspective to the recent trips of the president and all the many angles through which we can explore this?
There are so many things that should be put in the right perspective and that should be done in the right way. Every nation, every president, do you know how many trips President Joe Biden of America has made in the past 3 months? Not to say just in the past 1 year, or not to say in the year 2024. That is a very necessary trip, or those are very necessary trips for leaders of nations to do. When presidents or leaders of nations embark on state or international trips, they are done in order to do what is right, and they are done to do what will improve the economy, what will bring development, what will bring advancement, what will improve lives and standards of living of citizens of a particular country. And that is why any president does such diplomatic relations, such state travels or visits, and such international trips. It is to the benefit of the nation. Now let's come back to the example you made.
Yeah.
Regardless of the number of trips that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has made, or his vice president Shettima has made, all of that they have made, all of those trips are for the benefits of the country. They come with many advantages: economic advantages, trade advantages, political advantages, and even more importantly, diplomatic advantages. Now, let's take it one after the other. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's trip to France. I am so sure that many people don't even understand the type of country France is. The only thing they know is that France colonized many countries in Africa, particularly about 8 countries in West Africa, that is our ECOWAS. France colonized 8 countries in the ECOWAS, as it were, because out of the current 15 members of the ECOWAS countries, I am still adding Burkina Faso, Niger, and Mali. Because by the provision and the treaty establishing ECOWAS, both Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger are still currently members. Of course, they have made attempts to get out and go and establish another one. But by provision of the treaty establishing ECOWAS and the revised treaty of 1991, those 3 countries are still members of the ECOWAS. We are not treating that today, so I won't say much more than that. So all the countries of the ECOWAS presently are 15, including Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger. So if you look at them, apart from Nigeria, the Gambia, Ghana, and Syria alone, all those 4 countries were colonized by Britain, including Nigeria, while Liberia was established in America, but by the virtue of speaking English. So all the four plus Liberia making 5, we call them Anglophone countries within ECOWAS, English speaking. While 8 countries, Benin Republic, Côte d'Ivoire, Togo, Guinea-Conakry, then Niger, Mali, Burkina Faso, all of those 8 countries were colonized by France. Why the making 13? Then why the remaining 2? Guinea-Bissau and Cape Verde were colonized by Portugal. We call them Lusophone countries. While those that were colonized by France, we call them Francophone countries. So 5 plus 8, 13, plus 2, 15. Those are the current members of the ECOWAS. Now, what am I saying? And all the countries surrounding Nigeria, let's take it even beyond West Africa. Chad. You know, Chad is one of Nigeria's immediate neighbors.
Yes.
Chad was colonized by France. It's one of Nigeria's immediate neighbors. Niger Republic was colonized by France, one of Nigeria's immediate neighbors. So even on the maritime environment on the ocean, Equatorial Guinea is on the other side. But we are talking about land neighbors now. All of the land neighbors, immediate neighbors to Nigeria, they are all French-speaking countries. They were all colonized by France. By implication, France had been controlling them for more than a century. And if we are talking about independent African nations or independent African period, then we will say France have been controlling them. Without France,